Monsieur Zemmour is changing French politics in a remarkable way. The country is moving in its language to the right and doing so pretty significantly. Zemmour, never involved before in politics, and here he is at a big rally at the weekend shortly after he announced that he was throwing his hat in the ring to run as French president. Just how influential is he? Just how big a difference is he making? Well, joining me is Peter Allen, journalist based in Paris, old friend of mine. And you've recently interviewed Zemmour, but you've known him for a bit, I believe.
I have, Nigel. He's effectively a Paris hack. He's somebody who's been on the journalistic scene in Paris for many, many years. Not just as a broadcaster, but also as a print journalist. That's how he started out. Very much a dissenting, angry, dare I say, bitter print journalist. I mean these in a complimentary way, actually, not in a kind of, he's a piece of work and he's always being unpleasant to people. He is somebody who's always trying to pick out the negative in what he sees as a corrupt political establishment in Paris, a political establishment that doesn't really deliver to the people of France. And he makes those views known, often very eloquently. The problem with him, many would argue, is his abject extremism in one particular area, Nigel, and that would be immigration and his views towards millions of French citizens who he rather objects to their presence in France for cultural, for religious, for all kinds of reasons. And this is something that has made him very, very unpopular with other large segments of French society. But again, Nigel, to sum him up, he's a hack journalist who has been taking pot shots at the French political establishment for many, many years. And now he's pushing himself forward as somebody who can be the head of state, the president of the French Republic, a hugely powerful position. You don't necessarily need an established party behind you, as Emmanuel Macron displayed in 2017. But I can tell you that Eric Zemmour has just announced that he is founding a new party, and the name is Reconquest. What a warlike name that is. Wow. for a party, Nigel.
Yes, it is. I suppose he would argue that he's not complaining about immigration, but integration. But we'll have to find out more on that as time goes on. And yet, it seems to me, observing from here, listening to the rhetoric, even of Monsieur Barnier, who attempted to get the nomination for his party but failed, it seems he's shifting the whole debate in France very much in his direction when it comes to immigration, when it comes to integration. I mean, France is moving to the right because of this man, isn't it?
We could argue that. Marine Le Pen might disagree. The Rassemblement National came second in the last presidential election in 2017. She always gets a very large segment of the vote. She would argue that this is her chance now coming up. At the moment, I have to say, Nigel, she's slightly ahead of him in the polls. And of course, they're both very angry with each other because they think that they will split the far-right vote, if I'm allowed to use that expression. He thinks and she thinks that the two of them, there isn't a place for both of them in this presidential election. And the winners won't necessarily be Macron, but the Gaullist conservatives, who, you're completely right there, Nigel, are moving massively to the right as well. Yeah. Emmanuel Macron himself even has brought in a lot of policies that a lot of his more liberal supporters wouldn't support. And that is something that is absolutely right. France has always been a relatively large right-wing contingent, as you know, but certainly I would say that somebody like Eric Zemmour is certainly pushing the debate further and further to the right.
Well, I remember when a guy called Donald Trump, who was a real estate guy from New York, who had a TV show in America, threw his hat into the ring and made some incredibly bold statements on issues. And everybody said, well, this will never get anywhere. And hey, he came through and won. So I'm not saying Zemmour will, but I do think Just finally, France is not a very happy place, is it? Its citizens don't feel very happy. Its cities feel very divided. The economy is now starting to bite. If ever there was a moment for a shock in modern times, it is now, isn't it?
Potentially. I mean, Saturdays now, for example, is almost an institutionalized riot day. Paris has always been a protest city. There have always been riots in Paris, as we all know. But there is a feeling that this organized dissent, this idea that thousands, millions on certain weekends can come out on the street in cities all over France and protest, often very violently, against the administration, Emmanuel Macron's administration. Yes, there is division. There are people who are very upset. The economy is not doing that badly. Unemployment is falling. There are certain things that the government is doing right. But you're right, Nigel. There's unhappiness. There are problems. There's certainly institutionalized problems with the French system. And that is what somebody like Eric Zemmour hopes he can do something about if he were
Absolutely.
cause this incredible surprise.
Well, Peter, thank you for joining us, and we're going to talk to you again as the next few months go by. Thank you.